Let's talk about kindness. We live in a world where it's celebrated, praised, and often seen as the greatest virtue. From social media posts to personal interactions, we are constantly encouraged to be kind, to help others, and to always put others first. And yes, kindness is a beautiful thing. But have you ever stopped to consider whether too much kindness could actually be hurting you? You might think that's a strange question, even a little counterintuitive, but bear with me for a moment. See, I want to take you on a journey today, a journey through the teachings of Stoicism, the ancient philosophy that offers a balanced perspective on life, virtue, and yes, even kindness. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus didn't just hand out kindness indiscriminately. They understood that every virtue, if taken to extremes, can lead us down the wrong path. And that's what we're here to explore today. So if you've ever found yourself exhausted by trying to do good for everyone, or if you've ever wondered why your kindness hasn't always led to positive outcomes, then this video is for you. Stick around because we'll explore 8 unexpected ways kindness, if left unchecked, can actually damage your life. Let's begin with the first lesson, taking on too much. You know what I'm talking about. You're at a friend's gathering and someone casually mentions that they're moving next weekend. Without thinking, you blurt out, "I'll help." It's a simple offer. It's kind. But deep down, you know you're already overwhelmed with your own responsibilities. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, teach us to know our limits. Overcommitting is not just about being stretched too thin. It's about being true to yourself and your capacity. Imagine your life like a cup, and each commitment you make is a drop of water. Pour too much into it, and the cup overflows. The Stoics would remind you to know the size of your cup. It's not about saying no to kindness. It's about being kind to yourself first. When you try to do everything, when you try to be everything for everyone, you start to lose yourself in the process. That's not kindness. That's self-sabotage. Next time, when someone asks for your help, pause. Reflect on your capacity, not just out of practicality, but out of respect for yourself. You can still help, but there's power in setting healthy boundaries. The second lesson is a trap many of us fall into, always trying to make everyone happy. We've all been there, haven't we? You say yes when you really want to say no. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You agree with opinions you don't even share, all in an effort to please others. But let me ask you this. What's the cost of that constant need for approval? The Stoics were clear. We cannot control others' opinions, and we shouldn't try. Pleasing others might seem like kindness, but often it's rooted in our own insecurities. It's exhausting. It's like juggling masks, trying to be someone you're not, all for a fleeting moment of approval. And here's the kicker. Those people you're trying to please, they likely don't even notice the effort you're putting in. True kindness, according to Stoic wisdom, comes from authenticity. It comes from being true to yourself, no matter what others might think. Think about it. The people who truly matter to you, the ones who value your kindness, will do so because you're being yourself, not because you're pretending to be someone you're not. Now, here's the third lesson, thinking you can change people. We've all tried to fix someone. You know the type. That friend who constantly makes bad relationship choices. You give them advice. You listen to their heartbreaks. You try to point them in the right direction. But time and time again, they fall into the same patterns. Sound familiar? The Stoics believed that the only person you can change is yourself. You can't control other people, no matter how much you want to help them. While kindness might compel you to guide them, to save them, sometimes the best thing you can do is step back. Let people make their own choices, even if those choices lead to mistakes. It's hard, especially when you care deeply, but the kindest thing you can do is respect their journey. We move on to the fourth lesson, letting others use you. We all know that person who's always there, always available. They give, they help, they listen. But over time, what happens? People start to take their kindness for granted. They don't appreciate it anymore. In fact, it becomes an expectation. It's no longer a gift, it's an obligation. The Stoics taught us about the impermanence of things. We shouldn't become too attached to any one thing, including the kindness of others or our own acts of kindness. There's nothing wrong with being kind, but there is a danger when you start to give and give without setting boundaries. Be kind, yes, but don't allow people to take advantage of your generosity. It's about finding that sweet spot between giving and protecting your own well-being. This leads us into the fifth lesson, forgetting to care for yourself. You know what it's like. You're constantly there for others. You're always putting other people's needs before your own. It feels noble, right? After all, isn't that what kindness is all about? But here's the problem. If you neglect yourself, if you burn yourself out trying to be everything for everyone, you'll eventually have nothing left to give. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-care. They knew that you can't pour from an empty cup. Imagine yourself as a car. If you never stop to refuel, eventually you'll break down. If you're always prioritizing others, if you're always giving, you'll run out of energy, run out of compassion, and run out of patience. Kindness towards others begins with kindness toward yourself. Take care of yourself first, and you'll have more to give to others. And now, we come to the sixth lesson, avoiding conflict at all costs. Nobody likes conflict. It's uncomfortable, it's awkward, it's downright unpleasant. So in the name of kindness, we often avoid it. We let things slide. We keep our opinions to ourselves, hoping the tension will disappear on its own. But Stoicism teaches us that sometimes conflict is necessary. Avoiding conflict might feel kind in the moment, but in the long run, it only breeds resentment. Small annoyances build up, and those unspoken feelings turn into bigger problems. The Stoics believed in facing challenges head-on. It's not about picking fights or creating drama, but about addressing issues before they grow out of control. A little discomfort now can save you from a lot of pain later. The seventh lesson is one that's often overlooked, giving too much. Generosity is a beautiful thing, but like all virtues, it can be taken to an extreme. There's a limit to how much you can give. Whether it's your time, your energy, or your resources, you need to be mindful of your limits. Imagine you're constantly lending money to friends, giving your time to others, and pouring out your energy to help everyone around you. It feels good at first, doesn't it? You're helping, you're doing good. But eventually, you start to feel the strain. You run out of resources. You become drained. And when you need help, the people you helped aren't there for you. The Stoics were advocates of moderation. Generosity is about balance. You give, but you also retain. You make sure that your own needs are met before offering to help others. It's not about being selfish. It's about sustainability. Generosity that comes at the expense of your own well-being is not generosity at all. And finally, we arrive at the eighth lesson, needing others' approval. In today's world, it's so easy to share your good deeds online, to let others see how kind and generous you are. It's tempting, isn't it? To seek validation, to get likes and comments that affirm your actions. But here's the thing. When kindness becomes a transaction, when it's about seeking external validation, it loses its authenticity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." True virtue, according to the Stoics, is about your actions, not the recognition they bring. Don't seek validation from others. Instead, do good because it's the right thing to do. Let your actions speak for themselves. Now, as we conclude this journey, I want you to think about your own life. Have you found yourself caught in the trap of excessive kindness? Have you overcommitted, tried to please everyone, or given more than you can afford? The Stoics invite us to reflect on our actions, to find the balance between kindness and wisdom, between giving and protecting ourselves. If you found this video helpful, I encourage you to reflect deeply on the lessons shared today. Take a moment to evaluate your own acts of kindness. Are they in balance? Are you being true to yourself? Don't just live for the approval of others. Live for the wisdom that comes from within. If you enjoyed this journey, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. Together, let's continue exploring the profound wisdom of Stoicism and find ways to live a life of true virtue. Let's dive even deeper, because what I'm about to share could be the most important thing you hear today. So I want you to listen carefully. You've heard how kindness can go wrong, right? How it can backfire if not practiced with wisdom and awareness. But what if I told you there's a way to truly make kindness a powerful force in your life? Not just for others, but for yourself, too. Let's take a moment to reflect on what kindness really means. It's not just about doing good for others. It's also about doing what's right for you. Think about that for a second. Real kindness isn't about sacrificing your well-being for someone else's. It's about knowing your worth, your limits, and acting out of genuine care and compassion. When you approach kindness from that mindset, it doesn't deplete you. Instead, it strengthens you. It becomes a force that uplifts both you and those around you. Now, I know you might be thinking, but what if people misunderstand me? What if they think I'm being selfish? And here's where I need you to pause for a moment. Think about this. We live in a world that often mistakes self-care for selfishness. But taking care of yourself is one of the most profound acts of kindness you can show. Not just to yourself, but to others as well. Because when you take the time to nurture your own soul, when you fill your own cup, you're in a much better position to truly help others in a way that's sustainable. You don't burn out. You don't lose your sense of self. Instead, you find the strength to be a consistent, genuine source of support. What I want you to understand here is that self-care is not an act of indulgence. It's an act of strength. If you're someone who struggles with guilt over saying no or putting yourself first, I want you to stop and really hear me out. You cannot be everything for everyone. And when you try to, you end up being nothing for yourself. And that's a dangerous road to go down. Because without a clear sense of self, you become lost in the needs of others, and you forget to check in with your own heart, your own mind, and your own spirit. Think about the last time you felt completely drained, physically, mentally, or emotionally. How much of that exhaustion was caused by your constant need to please others, to help them at the expense of your own well-being? If you're being honest with yourself, you probably realize that it wasn't just a result of helping. It was a result of not knowing where to draw the line, of allowing the needs of others to override your own. This is why the Stoics placed such importance on self-awareness. You can't be kind to others unless you are first kind to yourself. You have to know where your boundaries are. You have to be willing to say no without feeling like you're letting anyone down. And you have to be able to do that without guilt or shame. This isn't about being rude or cold. It's about being grounded, confident, and clear about what you can and can't offer. Now I want to bring you back to something we touched on earlier, that feeling of always needing to make everyone happy. It's such a common struggle, isn't it? Wanting to be liked, to be appreciated, to be seen as the kind, giving person in the room. But here's the truth. The more you chase that approval, the more you're willing to sacrifice your own peace of mind, the less authentic your kindness becomes. It becomes about meeting an external expectation, not about being true to who you really are. And when that happens, you start to lose your sense of self. You stop doing things because they align with your values and start doing them because you fear the judgment of others. So I want to ask you this. How many times have you said yes to something just because you didn't want to disappoint someone? Or how many times have you agreed to help someone even though you were already overwhelmed? Deep down, you know that wasn't the right choice. You know that your true kindness lies in being able to honor yourself first. When you do that, you give yourself permission to act with integrity, and that's the kind of kindness that leaves a lasting impact. You see, Stoicism teaches us to embrace what is within our control and let go of what isn't. And while we can control our actions, we can't control how others react or how they perceive us. That's a powerful realization because once you understand that, you stop living for approval, you stop seeking validation, and instead you focus on acting with virtue, acting in alignment with what truly matters to you, regardless of what anyone else thinks. When you live in this way, your kindness is no longer driven by insecurity or fear of rejection. It's driven by a deep sense of inner strength and authenticity. But let's not stop there. Let's go a bit further and talk about the complexity of loving kindness. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to give kindness without expecting anything in return, while others give and then feel resentful when they don't receive the same in return? It's a tricky thing, isn't it? Because sometimes our acts of kindness come with unspoken expectations, and when those expectations aren't met, it can leave us feeling hurt or disappointed. That's where the Stoics offer a powerful lesson. Detach yourself from the outcome. When you give kindness, give it freely without expecting anything back. Don't let the actions or reactions of others determine the worth of your kindness. This doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop tying your worth to their response. Because when you do that, you start to experience true freedom. You give because it's the right thing to do, not because you expect something in return. This might feel like a tough pill to swallow, especially if you've been someone who's always expected reciprocation. But think about it. How many times have you been disappointed by the lack of appreciation or recognition for your kindness? How many times have you done something for someone and then felt let down when they didn't acknowledge it? The Stoics would say that the key to true contentment is releasing those expectations. When you stop needing others to validate your kindness, you free yourself from the cycle of disappointment and resentment. Let's now circle back to something that really matters, your peace of mind. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, "You can't pour from an empty cup." But I want you to really understand the depth of this truth. It's not just about physical exhaustion, it's about mental and emotional depletion. When you overextend yourself, when you give without replenishing, you end up empty inside. And that's when the problems really start. Your peace of mind isn't just about what's happening in the outside world. It's about what's happening within you. If you're constantly overwhelmed, constantly giving, constantly trying to please, your inner world becomes chaotic. The Stoics recognized that peace of mind comes from understanding yourself, your limits, and your capacity. It comes from living intentionally, not reactively. So before you agree to something, before you extend kindness, ask yourself, will this bring me peace? Or will it add to my inner noise? Let me ask you something very important. How often do you check in with yourself? I mean, really check in, not just on a surface level, but on a deep, honest level. How often do you take the time to ask yourself how you're truly feeling, what you need, and what you're capable of? If you're like most people, probably not often enough. But that's where the true power of kindness lies, not in doing everything for others, but in taking the time to care for yourself so you can show up as the best version of yourself, both for you and for those around you. When you start putting yourself first, when you start acting in alignment with your values and your capacity, you'll notice a shift. Your kindness becomes more grounded. It's no longer about seeking validation. It's no longer about overextending yourself. Instead, it becomes a natural outpouring of who you are, a reflection of the inner peace and self-respect you've cultivated. The real power of kindness isn't in how much you give. It's in the quality of what you give. And the quality of what you give depends on how well you take care of yourself. So if you're feeling drained, if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling like your kindness is losing its spark, take a moment to pause. Reevaluate your boundaries. Ask yourself what you need. And most importantly, listen to the answers. True kindness starts from within. Now let me ask you, how often do you allow yourself the space to truly rest? I'm not talking about sleep or simply taking a break from work. I mean genuine rest for your soul. It's something so many of us overlook because we're constantly on the move. We're constantly doing for others, constantly filling roles, constantly meeting expectations. But what happens when you never give yourself permission to rest, to reset, to just be? What I'm saying here is that your kindness won't have its full impact if you don't nurture your own energy. Kindness is a gift that comes from an abundant source. But if your source is empty, what do you have to give? When was the last time you filled yourself up? Not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle of life, in the need to always help, always be there, always be on. But I want you to consider the possibility that when you're exhausted, when you're running on fumes, your kindness isn't as genuine as it could be. It might even come off as forced, as something you're doing out of obligation rather than true desire. And think about this. When you give in a way that doesn't feel aligned with your true self, it doesn't feel good, does it? You might get that fleeting sense of satisfaction, but deep down, there's that nagging feeling that you're not giving your best, that you're not really present. You're just going through the motions. And that's not what you want, is it? That's not the kind of kindness that resonates with the world around you. The best kind of kindness, the kind that people truly appreciate, the kind that makes a real difference, is the kind that comes from a place of fullness, not emptiness. And here's the thing, resting is not laziness. Resting is an act of wisdom. It's about recognizing that you are not a machine. You are a human being with limits, with emotions, with needs. And if you don't take the time to listen to those needs, you'll eventually crash. You might think you're being noble by constantly pushing yourself, but eventually that catches up with you. You become irritable, you become overwhelmed, and your kindness starts to feel like a chore rather than a gift. Now, I don't want to make it seem like kindness is something to be avoided or that you shouldn't be there for others. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I want you to understand is that true kindness is balanced kindness. It's the kind of kindness that takes care of others, but also takes care of yourself. It's the kind of kindness that doesn't leave you feeling drained, but instead leaves you feeling fulfilled, knowing that you've given from a place of strength, not depletion. So the next time you find yourself stretching yourself too thin, the next time you feel that pressure to keep giving and giving, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now? What do I need to feel replenished? Maybe it's a walk in nature. Maybe it's some quiet time alone. Maybe it's reconnecting with something that fills your heart. Whether that's a hobby, a passion, or simply resting your mind. Whatever it is, I want you to honor that need. Because when you do, you're not just taking care of yourself, you're also strengthening your ability to give to others in a way that truly matters. I know it's not always easy. We live in a world that often rewards busyness, rewards constant productivity, rewards giving until there's nothing left. But I want to challenge that belief for you. I want you to understand that your worth is not defined by how much you do for others. Your worth is inherent in who you are. You don't have to constantly be the giver to be loved or respected. You don't have to constantly be on to prove your value. Your value comes from your authenticity, from being true to yourself, and from being willing to say no when you need to. This brings me to a crucial point. Kindness does not mean sacrificing your boundaries. In fact, true kindness involves respecting your own boundaries. Think about it this way. If you continually say yes when you should say no, you're not being kind to yourself, and you're not truly being kind to others either. You're simply enabling a cycle where you're overextended, burnt out, and ultimately ineffective in helping anyone, including yourself. Setting boundaries isn't about being selfish. It's about being wise. It's about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup, that you can't help others effectively when you're barely holding it together. So I want you to think of your boundaries as a form of self-respect. You don't have to explain them to anyone. You don't have to justify them. When you honor your boundaries, you honor yourself, and you honor the people around you too, because you show them that you're a person who knows their worth and respects their energy. At this point, you might be wondering, how do I know when to set a boundary? That's a great question, and the answer lies in listening to your body, your mind, and your spirit. If something feels off, if you start to feel overwhelmed, anxious, drained, or even resentful, that's a sign. That's your body telling you that a boundary needs to be set. Trust those feelings. Don't push them aside. They are your internal compass, guiding you toward the actions that will best serve you and those you care about. This is something that takes practice. It's easy to say, I'll set boundaries, but much harder to follow through, especially if you've been conditioned to put others' needs before your own. But I promise you, with time, this becomes second nature. You learn to listen to your own needs. You learn to say no without guilt. And most importantly, you learn that your kindness is a reflection of how much you value yourself. As you begin to set these boundaries, you'll notice something powerful happen. Your sense of peace will grow. You'll feel more at ease in your decisions, and you'll begin to realize that you can be a force of kindness in the world without sacrificing your own well-being. You don't have to exhaust yourself to make a difference. In fact, the more you respect your own limits, the more powerful your kindness becomes. It becomes a sustainable, authentic force that has the power to change lives, not just yours, but the lives of others. And here's where it all comes full circle. Kindness that comes from a place of self-awareness and self-respect is the kind of kindness that truly lasts. It's the kind of kindness that doesn't come with strings attached. It's the kind of kindness that isn't looking for anything in return because it's already whole. It's the kind of kindness that leaves a lasting impact, not because you gave everything, but because you gave what you could, with your whole heart, while also taking care of yourself. So, moving forward, I want you to start thinking about kindness in a new light. I want you to see it as a force that starts from within, that's rooted in balance and awareness. True kindness doesn't come from overextending yourself. It comes from knowing yourself deeply, knowing your limits, and acting in alignment with your values. That's the kind of kindness that changes the world. And when you live this way, you don't just help others, you help yourself in the process. Now I want you to take a moment and reflect. Reflect on the times when you've given, when you've extended kindness without thinking twice. In those moments, how did you feel? I know that warm, fulfilling sensation that comes when you've helped someone. It's a beautiful feeling. But I also want you to remember the times when you've given too much, when your generosity stretched you thin, when your kindness left you feeling more exhausted than fulfilled. It's a hard truth to face, but it's something we all experience at some point. And if we're honest, it's not a good feeling. That's because kindness, just like anything else in life, needs to be nurtured, protected, and maintained. It's not an infinite resource unless you care for it properly. Think of it like a garden. If you don't water it, if you don't nourish the soil, if you don't protect it from the weeds, your kindness will wither. You can't just give endlessly and expect it to grow. It requires attention, just like you do. And the sooner you realize this, the sooner you'll start noticing a huge shift in the way you approach not only kindness, but also how you live your life. You might have been raised with the belief that kindness means giving without thinking about yourself, always putting others first. You might have even thought that being a good person meant sacrificing your needs for the sake of others. But what if I told you that this isn't the path to true happiness or fulfillment? In fact, by constantly neglecting your own needs, you may actually be doing more harm than good, both to yourself and to others. You may have unintentionally conditioned yourself to ignore your own well-being, thinking that being constantly available and sacrificing your happiness for others is the right thing to do. But in reality, this is just a fast track to burnout and resentment. The thing is, we've been taught this narrative from a young age. Society, culture, and even our families have ingrained this idea that kindness is synonymous with self-sacrifice. But let me ask you this. Does anyone truly benefit when you're running on empty? Does anyone truly feel the impact of your kindness when you're offering it out of obligation or guilt? The truth is, no one does. The kindness you give when you're exhausted or overwhelmed is not as potent as the kindness that comes from a well-rested, centered, and fulfilled version of yourself. That's why the first step in truly being kind to others is learning how to be kind to yourself. It starts with self-awareness. Are you aware of how much energy you're giving? Are you aware of how much you've been giving without taking the time to refuel? It's easy to get swept up in the busyness of life and forget about yourself. But if you want to make a real impact, if you want to offer kindness that truly makes a difference, you have to be mindful of your own needs. You have to check in with yourself regularly and ask, am I taking care of me? And this doesn't just apply to big gestures. It applies to the small moments, too. Think about how you approach your daily life. Are you kind to yourself in the little things? Do you speak to yourself with compassion when you make mistakes? Or do you beat yourself up for not being perfect? Kindness isn't just about grand gestures toward others. It's about how you treat yourself in the everyday moments. When you wake up, how do you speak to yourself? When you make a mistake, do you offer yourself grace or do you criticize yourself? These small moments of kindness to yourself are the building blocks of a fulfilling life. They are the foundation of the kindness you extend to others. But here's something else I want you to consider: perfectionism. It's a tricky thing. We live in a world where there's so much pressure to be perfect, to always be on, to always be giving, always be helpful. And I know that can make you feel like you're failing if you're not constantly doing something, if you're not constantly performing kindness. But the truth is, perfectionism is one of the biggest obstacles to living a life of genuine kindness. It creates unrealistic expectations for yourself and others. And when you inevitably can't meet those expectations, you end up feeling depleted, disappointed, and frustrated. Perfectionism tells you that your value comes from how much you give, how much you do, how flawless your actions are. But let me tell you something. Your value is inherent in who you are, not in what you do. True kindness comes from authenticity, from a place of accepting yourself as you are, flaws and all. When you let go of the need to be perfect and simply embrace who you are, your kindness becomes more real. It becomes more powerful. It's no longer about being flawless, but about being genuine. And let's not forget about one of the most important elements of kindness: compassion. It's easy to be kind when things are going well, when you're feeling good and energized. But what about when things are tough? What about when you're struggling? That's when true kindness is tested. That's when you really have to tap into your compassion, not just for others, but for yourself, too. Compassion means accepting that we all have bad days, that we all struggle, that we all fall short sometimes. When you extend compassion to yourself, you give yourself permission to rest, to recharge, to be imperfect. And when you can do that for yourself, you can offer the same to others. You become more understanding, more empathetic, because you understand the value of compassion in your own life. So if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, if you're feeling like you've been giving more than you have to give, I want you to pause for a moment and breathe. I want you to remember that it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to not always be the strong one or the perfect one. It's okay to rest and to take time for yourself without guilt. Because when you fill your own cup, when you nurture your own spirit, you are better able to give to others from a place of strength and not from depletion. The kindness that comes from a balanced, centered heart is the kindness that truly transforms lives. So take care of yourself, set those boundaries, and let go of the idea that you need to do everything perfectly. Give yourself the space to be human. In doing so, you'll find that you can be more present, more impactful, and above all, more genuine in your kindness. And don't forget, you're worth it. You deserve to live a life that's not just about giving to others, but also about receiving from life. You deserve the rest, the peace, and the love that you so freely give to others. So give yourself that gift, not just because you deserve it, but because the world needs the best version of you. And that best version comes from a place of balance, rest, and self-respect. I want you to take a deep breath and think for a second. Think about those moments when you felt completely drained, when you gave your all to someone or something, but in return, you ended up feeling empty. We've all been there, when the kindness you've extended to others left you with nothing but exhaustion, frustration, and perhaps even resentment. And yet, despite all of that, you kept giving because you thought that's what you were supposed to do. You thought that was the right thing to do. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Kindness, when overextended, will hurt you. It will drain you. It will make you question your value, your worth, and your purpose. When you give without boundaries, without taking a moment to assess your own needs, you are not practicing kindness. You're practicing self-sacrifice. And here's the thing about self-sacrifice. It is not sustainable. There's a fine line between generosity and depletion, a fine line between showing love for others and completely losing sight of your own needs. And unfortunately, too many of us have crossed that line, thinking that by constantly giving, we are somehow becoming better, more loving people. But what if I told you that the best way to truly serve others is by first honoring yourself? What if the kindness you give others would be far more impactful if you took the time to nurture your own heart, mind, and body first? It's a tough pill to swallow, isn't it? We've been so conditioned to believe that kindness means sacrificing ourselves at the altar of others' needs. But true kindness, genuine, sustainable kindness, begins with self-respect. It begins with recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup. It begins with knowing that your worth is not determined by how much you give, but by who you are at your core. Now you might be thinking, but if I stop giving, won't I be selfish? Won't I be turning my back on those who need me? And I get that. I really do. But here's the shift. It's not about stopping your kindness. It's about redirecting it. It's about recognizing that to be there for others in the long run, you need to be there for yourself first. It's about building a foundation of strength, peace, and health so that the kindness you give can be powerful, lasting, and truly transformative. When you start treating yourself with kindness, you will notice a shift in how you approach others. You won't give because you feel obligated. You won't give because you're afraid of letting others down. You'll give because you genuinely have the energy, the love, and the compassion to do so. And that's when your kindness will have its greatest impact. Not because it's forced, not because you're trying to earn something, but because it's coming from a place of true abundance. And here's something else that might surprise you. When you begin to establish boundaries and protect your own energy, you'll find that people around you actually respect you more. It's not about being rude or dismissive. It's not about saying no all the time or isolating yourself. It's about having the courage to speak up for yourself, to say, I need this space, or I can't do that right now. When you do this with love and respect, you teach others to do the same. You show them that it's okay to honor their own needs, too. Think about it. When someone asks something of you, and you feel that familiar pang of exhaustion or resistance, that's a signal. That's your body and mind telling you that you need to listen to yourself. It's not selfish, it's self-awareness. And when you start to listen to that inner voice, you'll find that you're more effective in the ways you choose to give. You'll be more present, more clear-headed, and ultimately, you'll be doing better by others, because you'll be doing better by yourself. This is not a one-time realization. It's a practice, a daily choice. Every time you're faced with the opportunity to give, pause, check in with yourself. Are you giving out of genuine desire, or are you giving out of obligation? Are you giving because it's a true act of love? Or are you giving because you're afraid of disappointing someone? These questions aren't meant to guilt you. They're meant to help you gain clarity. And let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with being kind, with giving of yourself. But if you're always pouring out without replenishing yourself, you'll eventually find yourself depleted. That's not kindness, that's burnout. And burnout is not sustainable, not for you, not for anyone. So here's the key: balance. True kindness is a balance between giving to others and giving to yourself. It's about having the wisdom to know when to say yes and when to say no. It's about being honest with yourself about your limits and then honoring them with grace and compassion. Because when you can do that, when you can take care of yourself, your kindness will flow more effortlessly. It will be grounded in self-respect, and it will resonate with authenticity. When you stop pretending that you can give endlessly without consequence, you start giving in a way that actually matters. Your kindness becomes a source of power, power to connect, power to heal, and power to inspire others. And here's the thing: when you do this, when you start honoring your own well-being, not only will you feel better, but the world around you will feel the impact. You'll become a beacon of what it looks like to live a life of balance, of kindness, and of deep, meaningful connection. Remember, you don't have to do it all. You don't have to be everything for everyone. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to have limits. And you are allowed to put yourself first. Because doing so doesn't make you selfish. It makes you wise. So if you're listening right now, and you're feeling like you've been running on empty for too long, I want you to hear this clearly. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to say no. It's okay to recharge. And when you do, you'll find that your kindness becomes more vibrant, more impactful, and more sustainable. You'll become the kind of person who can give without losing themselves in the process. So take a moment for yourself. Reflect on what you need. Honor your heart, your mind, and your body. And when you do, you'll be amazed at how much more you have to give to the world. Because true kindness doesn't come from a place of depletion. It comes from a place of abundance. And that abundance starts with you. I want to leave you with something that I truly believe can change your life. You have to put yourself first. Not in a selfish way, but in a way that honors your own heart and spirit. This journey we're on, this path of self-awareness and growth, requires us to be kind to ourselves first, before we can truly be there for others. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. I want you to understand this message on a deep level because it's a game changer. When you take care of yourself, when you honor your needs, you become a better version of yourself. And that version has the ability to give more love, more kindness, and more positivity to the world. But it starts with you. It starts with the decision to prioritize your well-being and to stop running on empty. And once you begin this shift, I promise you will feel more alive, more connected, and more powerful in every aspect of your life. So if you found value in what I've shared with you today, if something in this message resonates with your heart, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Not because I want you to, but because I want you to keep showing up for yourself. This is just the beginning. Every video I share, every conversation we have here, is another step on this journey to living a life that's grounded, powerful, and full of purpose. By subscribing, you're making the decision to keep learning, to keep growing, and to keep embracing the truth that you are worthy of the best life possible. You are worthy of love, peace, and the kind of kindness that starts with you. I know you've got this. You've already taken the first step by listening to this message. Now make sure you keep moving forward, keep evolving, and keep surrounding yourself with content that uplifts you. You deserve that. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm so grateful for you. Take care of yourself. Keep prioritizing your own well-being. And remember, you are the most important person in your life. Keep shining, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.